Welcome back. 60 years ago this week, India and Pakistan threw off the shackles of the British Empire and became nations in their own right. For millions of people suddenly in charge of their own destinies, the partition of the subcontinent brought with it huge change. Not least, a great migration. 15 million people crossed between the two countries to become either part of Muslim Pakistan or Hindu India. As many as 1 million died in the process. The 6 decades since have seen extraordinary change in both countries. Home to 1 billion people, India is now one of the world's fastest growing economies. It's also, of course, where hundreds of thousands of British families have their origins. In the first of 3 special reports, Nannar took her nephew, Daniel, a second-generation Indian, on his first visit to his family's homeland. They saw firsthand how 2 new nations have been transformed by 60 years of change.
His mother is Indian, but Daniel Raymond has never wanted to explore that side of his heritage until now. For the first time, he is in the country of his ancestors. Delhi was the last Indian city his grandparents saw before they emigrated to England. So I'm here with Daniel, my nephew, to see how it has changed beyond all recognition in the years after independence. The rate of modernisation is staggering, and it is being fuelled by education. The literacy level has trebled in the last 60 years, and Daniel, an IT student, is keen to meet Indian students the same age.
Are you alright? Hi, I'm Dan.
For young people like these, India offers more opportunities than ever before.
Hello.
Mind if we come and join you?
So where did you all learn to speak English then? Because it's fantastic.
Well, the first thing that we learn Hindi afterwards. We learn English first.
Amazing how 1 in 2 Indians is under the age of 25. It's such a young nation.
People used to go abroad for their higher studies, do science there. Nowadays people are returning back home because they want to improve things here.
It's one of the best nations today that you'd want to be in because it's developing. It hasn't reached a plateau. It's still
It's
growing.
still upcoming. It shows the kind of level that they're working at over here. It's a lot more advanced than I thought.
But not everyone is so lucky. We visit one of the hundreds of slums in Delhi. India is experiencing an economic boom, but an estimated 250 million people are missing out.
It's poverty like you've never seen before. It really is, yeah. Can't believe that 6 people would live in this room. It is shocking that people can have that much money and yet do nothing about places like this.
Do you feel like you have any connection at all with India when you come to a place like this?
No. Not like this.
India is keen to usher in a new era, but what of the legacy of British rule? In the grounds of Delhi's Red Fort, where the Indian flag was unfurled in 1947, we meet Ajit Kalra. He lived through the partition of India when independence came.
What do you think of India being independent now? Do you think it's a better place now, or was it better when the British were here?
At that time, there was a movement everybody wanted independence at any cost.
Yeah.
What I feel, the general population was more happier and safe
When the British
were here. Okay. Frankly speaking.
Do you wish the British were back?
And no, not that.
Daniel's had his first encounter with India, but now this 18-year-old who was born and raised in Birmingham is heading for Babak, the small Punjabi village where our family has its roots. Nannar, ITV News in Delhi.
And you can see the second of Nina's reports from India on tomorrow's Evening News.
This is your great-uncle, Daniel.
We'll show you when Daniel met some of his relatives for the very first time.
Welcome back. 60 years ago today, the nation of Pakistan was born, a product of partition when Britain let go of some of the last vestiges of empire. For the hundreds of thousands from the Indian subcontinent who settled in the UK, this is a day to reflect on what it means to be British and Pakistani, or British and Indian. Back in 1947, millions found themselves, in effect, on the wrong side of the new border. Many Muslims were forced to move west into Pakistan, while Sikhs and Hindus moved east into India. Today, though, there have been celebrations across Pakistan. This was the scene in the capital, Islamabad, where thousands of people took to the streets. 60 years ago, one region on the very front line of the partition was Punjab. Our correspondent Nannar has returned to her family home in the Indian village of Babak. With her, her nephew Daniel, who's visiting the country for the very first time. Here's the second in her series marking independence on the subcontinent. New Nations, a journey of discovery.
Welcome to the village. We hitch a ride on a passing tractor. This is, after all, deep in the heart of rural Punjab. I am taking Daniel, a second-generation British Indian, to Babak, our family's ancestral village, for the first time. Dayaji. Dayaji. This is your great-uncle, Daniel. There you go. And this Dayaji, Sasrigalji Dayaji. The visiting musician heralds Daniel's arrival as he meets family members for the first time.
It's lovely to meet everybody finally. It's everyone that I've heard so much about all these years.
So many in the village have turned out to greet us. Our first stop is the village temple, the Gurdwara.
So Gurdwara in the village was started by my father.
When was that?
He was around 1929 or 30.
Punjab was the state which bore the brunt of partition and its bloody aftermath, divided in 1947 to create Pakistan. Now on the Indian side, it is home to most of the country's Sikhs, so we pay our respects in the place where generations of our family have done the same. In common with thousands of families across Punjab, our family has seen many emigrate since independence. My father came to England in the 50s. Then his two brothers also left for Canada. Only the eldest remained in India, going on to work for the state's agricultural university.
You grew up in the village, yeah? But you are the only one out of all your brothers who are left here?
I'm quite contented man. I'm not very much after anything.
So you were happy here?
Yes, yeah? I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of me then, now you've seen me?
I'm very happy. You are a very lovely chap.
Before 1947 and independence, Sikhs, Muslims and Hindus lived alongside each other in the villages of Punjab. Partition, the creation of Pakistan, saw most of the region's Muslims migrating away across the new border. Today, even though Punjab's fertile land has helped make it India's richest state, staying here to work the inherited farmland is no longer an attractive option for many young people. The cities and towns beckon both here and abroad.
This is more interesting than turning the tap on, yeah?
Daniel has Indian roots, but it's a way of life far removed from his. So what do you think? You swap IT in Birmingham for farming in Babak?
I don't know about that. There's not many young men left in the village like yourself. Where have they all gone to the city?
Yes, some working in the fields, but some are wandering.
Yeah, just wandering around, on their mopeds.
What do you think of this rural area? I mean, this is where your forefathers were brought up.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. It really is. I'll definitely come back here again.
Does it change the way you think about yourself now that you understand a bit more about your roots, if you like?
Primarily you are British because you've been brought up in Britain, you've lived a British life, but now knowing where I come from, it makes you feel more Indian.
For Daniel, this has been a snapshot of part of his history. His generation is settled far away, but here, at least partly, he feels at home. Nannar, ITV News in Punjab, India.
And you can watch the final part of our New Nations series on tomorrow's Evening News.
When I remember those days, I can't control myself. Those were the very bad days.
crosses the border to Pakistan and speaks to those who live through the horrors of partition.
Right across the country, thousands turned out in the capital, Delhi, to hear the Prime Minister wish the nation's neighbours peace and prosperity.
Warm words, and with India and Pakistan, of course, being right next to each other, they're linked by language and culture, but they're separated by 6 decades of bitterness and rivalry. Tonight, in the third and final part of her series, New Nations, Nina Nannar asks, will they be divided forever?
It runs 4 times a week, carrying hundreds of passengers, the train service between Delhi in India and Lahore in Pakistan. But 60 years ago, so many of the train passengers on this route never got to the other side alive.
In the great cities, Independence Day was a day of rejoicing.
That rejoicing was soon replaced by horror at the slaughter of hundreds of thousands fleeing by train and foot across the new borders created at the birth of Pakistan.
The roads on the Pakistan border streamed with refugees. Men, women and children fled from the mass murders of Hindu-Muslim strife.
6 decades have passed for the people of Lahore, once the capital city of an undivided Punjab. At the city station, I meet Syed Hussain. For 3 months in 1947, he came here every day to search for his parents who'd been left behind in India at partition, and at last he found them.
You must have been so relieved.
I wept, and then my family members also. When I remember those days, I can't control myself. Those are the very bad days.
But today there are signs of better relations. Now the countries trade raw goods across the border, albeit slowly and by foot. Indian porters in blue stopping at the borderline to hand goods over to Pakistani porters in red and green. It's chaotic, but proof that at the very least, Pakistan and India want to do more trade with each other. But when it comes to ordinary people crossing the border to see their relatives on the other side, things are still anything but easy.
The bureaucracy involved in crossing the borders is absolutely astonishing. Fears about drug smuggling and spying means these people could be waiting to go through customs and immigration for up to 9 hours.
Welcome to Pakistan.
Thank you very much.
Meeting you.
Government ministers say political differences between the countries remain, but concede there's a definite thaw in relations.
2 generations have been born into the subcontinent, so life has moved on. And I think that is what the world has to look on at. We have to look at the future. We have to build our own lives.
On the surface, the 2 countries remain old rivals. This is a symbolic show of strength played out each evening at the Wagah border crossing, the only place you can cross on foot. Pakistani and Indian soldiers beating the retreat as the audiences cheer them on. I watched the spectacle with crowds on both sides of the border. It was pure pantomime and I sensed no hostility. In fact, everywhere I travelled in both India and Pakistan, I met people like Harish. His family is divided between the 2 countries, but he bears no ill feeling.
The Pakistan and the Indian peoples are same. Our language is same, our eating things are same, our crops are same. वो बोलते हैं ओ चल बुल्लिया चल ओथे चलिए.
Harish sang to me of a land with no race, religion, caste or division. It's a distant dream here, but 60 years on, the people of both countries are intent on moving forward. Nina Nannar, ITV News on the Pakistan-India border.
Tonight's main news again. The family of Captain David Hicks, the most senior British soldier to be killed